If you're thinking about upgrading to DC's Ultra tier, you might want to watch this first. Welcome back to Comics Are Dope. I'm BJ Kicks, and about a year ago, I made a video basically announcing that DC just added an Ultra tier to its Infinite app and subscription service. Basically, it was an upgrade on top of your existing DC Universe membership. If you decided to go annual on the Ultra tier, you get access to a bunch of more titles and some other exclusive things that we'll talk about here in a second. Well, I subscribed day one to DC Universe Infinite Ultra, and now my subscription is it's up for renewal. And before I actually renewed that subscription, I wanted to talk to you guys about it, tell you the pros and cons and how I am making my decision as to whether or not I'm going to upgrade to DC Universe Infinite Ultra again. Now, before I get too deep into this video, I wanted to go ahead and show you guys exactly how the service works. And that way you can see exactly what I'm seeing. So decided to bring out the iPad. I'm screen recording. And what we're looking at is the interface for DC Universe. Now, this is what it's going to look like if you're not subscribed at all, which I'm not because I allowed my subscription to lapse. So DC Universe basically is an app that gives you digital access to a ton of DC back issues. Their official number is 27,000 plus, but it's even more if you're on the Ultra tier. And new books are added every week. And we'll talk a little bit more about how those books are added. So let's just click on one of their latest releases. So this is The Flash issue number 1. If I wanted to read that book, I'd have to sign up for one of their plans. And right now, there are 3 choices of plans for DC Universe Infinite. Now, the first is their standard monthly tier. At $7.99 a month, they bill you every month. They can bill you through their iTunes, or you do it on their website. You can bill it through there. And that gets you access to about 27,000 back issues with new issues added every single week. But those new issues that are added, they're added 6 months after they release in print for the first time, with the exception of a few like exclusives that they like to throw out there for everyone to get them excited about specific titles. You also get different member benefits and discounts, and there's a 7-day free trial if you have not used DC Infinite before on one of their paid plans. So these what used to be the 2 options that you could go monthly for about $8 a month, or if you decided to pay up your entire year in advance, then you can go annual and save a little bit of money, but only pay $74.99. So savings of about $20 for paying it all at once. And there you go. 7-day free trial available for the annual membership as well. All right, so it used to be those were the only 2 options, the monthly tier and the $75 annual tier. But now they've actually added a 3rd option, the DC Universe Ultra tier. Now, the Ultra tier is also an annual membership, but for a price increase of about $45 over the $75 regular annual tier, you get more books, basically 32,000 plus books available anytime and anywhere. So 5,000 more than you would have gotten before. And the new comics that come out, because you still get new comics loaded every week. And the new comics that come out are coming out just 30 days after they came out in print in stores. Very nice. It's a nice feature that I use a lot. In addition to getting comics just 30 days after they release, you're also getting expanded library, which is why there's 5,000 more books. Those are mostly coming from the Vertigo and Black Label titles, as well as collected editions. Every time DC will release new collected editions, they'd be available in this app as a digital view as well. You also get, with that purchase, a free DC collectible comic, which is exclusive to Ultra subscribers. It's a physical comic. It's not an NFT or anything like that. I've actually got mine right here. I'll show it to you in a second. And then you still get access to Ultra member only events and discounts. I don't remember seeing any events, but I could have just not been checking my email. And there's a 7-day free trial for that as well. So if you're like me, you need more time to think. I'm just going to tap that skip for now. And let's talk about this decision. So, all right, so now that I've shown you the app and your subscription options, let's talk about the pros and cons to DC Universe Infinite Ultra. Obviously, the pro, you get comics 30 days after they're released. that has come in clutch for me specifically since I review comics. I'm only picking up my books once a month. They kind of pile up anyway. I'm almost never fully caught up on comics enough to like need to read a certain book the day of release, right? So 30 days later is not that late to me. Like that's current in my eyes. If you have read last month's issue, even while this month's issue is out, you're caught up. It's comic math. I don't know what to tell you. But so 30 days after release, that's a big deal for me. Another pro obviously being that expanded library of titles, specifically the collected editions. I really liked having access to collected editions, comics in collected editions format. For this reason, a lot of times the collected edition is mapped a little bit differently than the single issues were. So like, for example, the Deceased hardcover, volume 1. Contains Deceased 1 through 6 and the Deceased A Good Day to Die special. If you were to read that in single issues, you're just getting 1 through 6, unless you know to stop, navigate to the Good Day to Die special, and then read that, and then go back and pick up at issue 4 or 5 or whichever it was, right? But if you're reading the collected edition and the digital file of the collected edition, you get the same thing that you get in the hardcover. You get the story in story order. So those collected editions are a lot more clutch than it sounds. Because for me, I'm like, well, why does the collected edition matter if it's all digital? I can just read the single issues. But I don't know, something about those comic book reading orders doesn't always make sense to read just issue to issue and keep up in catalog. I do also like that you can, save reading lists and save things to favorites and all of that. So that's dope. That's one of the pluses. And then the other pro is the fact that there are titles that are available on the Ultra tier that just aren't available on the regular DC. If I'm paying $8 a month, in my opinion, I want everything. I feel like that's a drawback. But if there's something I know is available, I'm probably going to pay for it. Does that make sense? Like, it probably doesn't. It's probably stupid. I'm probably being a dumb consumer, but like I like to know that I have access to everything. So the Ultra tier was dope for that. I think the biggest example of something that seems egregious that you cannot read this under a regular DC Infinite membership is Watchmen. Watch Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons' Watchmen. You cannot read unless you're subscribed to the DC Universe Ultra tier. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess if you're a big fan of Watchmen, you probably already own it. It's sitting on my bookshelf right there. I'm pointing to it. So you're probably like me if you care about Watchmen, but still, that's beside the point. If I want to read it digitally, if I want to like turn up max brightness on that dude falling down, falling over the balcony and zooming in on a smiley face, let me do that on my tablet. Anyway. So, the stories that are the Vertigo titles and those Black Label titles that aren't available any other way. 2 examples I was able to find real quick were Watchmen and We 3. You can't read those unless you have an Ultra membership. So for what that's worth, those were the 3 pros, things that I liked about the DC Universe Ultra membership. But there are a couple of things that I don't like. That price is kind of steep, like $45 more than the regular annual subscription. That's not a small amount. That's like 60% more, so take that price increase seriously and think about whether or not you're going to use those extra features on top of whatever is already available in the app enough to justify that $45 extra. $45. What's that? $4 a month, a little less than $4 a month. That's the price of 1 comic a month extra. Are you going to read 1 comic a month that's not in the DC Universe Infinite app as it is? Maybe, but maybe not. So that's something to think about. But now I guess that leads me to the final verdict. And I think my final verdict really depends on the type of person you are, right? For me, the con to the DC Universe Ultra tier is that because I'm a reviewer, I need stuff like up to the minute. So that 30 days came in clutch. But that meant I was always reading the newest things. I think a big draw to the DC Universe app is that you're getting all sorts of back issues and stories and things from way before you got into comics, before you were born and thought of in some cases, right? That's really the heart of the DC Universe app. But focusing on the Ultra tier meant that I was reading like the latest issue of Shazam or the last 3 issues of Detective Comics pretty much all the time. That's what I was reading. So I was living firmly in that Ultra section. And that, hey, first, I think that does take away some of the experience if you're not like just reading all the time. But yeah, so that's that for me. So who I think this is for, I think the DC Ultra tier is for you if, one, you're a comic reviewer. Like I said, like having access to everything DC puts out 30 days later, there's just no substitute for that. That was amazing while I had it, and I used it really often. So if you're a comic reviewer, yeah, it's worth it. Write it off on your taxes. I mean, I'd still rather have the money than the write-off, but still, there are ways to make it feel less expensive. You do, of course, get this collector's edition book that would retail for about $35. So if you want to think of it that way, that you're technically only paying like $15 more, you don't even have to pay to ship this book out. So that's something to think about, I guess. But for me, I'm like, so yeah, if you are a reviewer, grab it. If you're not a comic reviewer, it really comes down to, do you want to stay current or not? Because if you don't want to be spoiled, waiting 6 months after a comic release and having a life on the internet is going to be very difficult. Things are going to be spoiled for you all the time. So if you don't want to be spoiled, get the Ultra tier. If you're a big Vertigo fan, get the Ultra tier. But if not, honestly, 6 months after release, that's long enough to wait to see if the story's actually any good. And if it is, you will have heard that it was good. And so that you can enjoy it by paying an astounding $30 to $45 less. So that's my verdict. DC Universe, for me, if you're and the other person that should not buy DC Universe Infinite, physical comic collectors. I go to the comic shop still every week or at least every month and buy new comics. And when I upgraded to the Ultra tier, I thought, okay, cool. That means I can drop all DC except Batman. But that didn't happen because I didn't realize how big a fan of all the other DC characters I was. I've been loving everything in the dawn of DC, from Green Lantern to Green Arrow to Shazam. I think the only title I've dropped so far is Unstoppable Doom Patrol. And that's just because I forgot to pick up the first issue. So liking those books that much meant that I still wanted to buy them every month. I didn't want to wait the 30 days. Even that little 30-day window, I didn't want to wait. And even if I did like forget to read a book or skip it or whatever, I still wanted to own it physically. There's a Jon Stewart book out right now. Best believe I'm buying every issue day one because I want to support that character. And if you are like just a diehard fan like that, and you're collecting physical comics, it probably doesn't make sense to pay for Ultra because all the books that are available, you probably own. Even those Vertigo books and the collected editions, you're probably buying those anyway. So unless you just have to be able to read them digitally, you probably don't need it. So there you go. That's my verdict. Thank you guys for sticking through this really long review. I appreciate it. Shout out to the channel family. I'll see you guys in another video real soon. Until then, stay awesome, stay safe, and read something dope today. Peace.